Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox on AM 650.
Welcome back to the program. Our guest in studio is Dr. Ted Venema from NextGen and Mainland Hearing. Today we're talking about the dramatic effects of hearing loss and the solutions you'll find with NextGen Hearing and Mainland Hearing in the form of hearing aids. And Dr. Ted, just before we took the break, you said, look, this is a process. There's nothing related to getting hearing aids that in any way resembles going in, plunking down your money, picking up a piece of product and hitting the road. No. It is a personalized process that begins with an exhaustive 45-minute hearing test. I mean, it's not exhausting for that. I've had the test, friends.
Yeah,
I wasn't out of breath once, but it's not exhaustive in that sense. There's no mountain climbing involved. But you sit down in a quiet room in a soundproof or sound reduced area, and you're very comfortable. But you actually focus for 3/4 of an hour, and you go through this whole thing.
Well, they want to test your ability to hear tones, and then they test your ability to hear speech.
Right.
And all these things are put together in a package whereby to better counsel and explain to you.
Right.
Because the degree of your hearing loss is going to have implications on what hearing aids you might want or benefit from. The degree and the shape of your hearing loss determines the problems that you would have with speech. And all of that has to fit a picture. So when you... And it's a little bit different from the eye, because a prescription for the eye, you know, they'll shine one thing. How does that? Oh, that's kind of blurry. Next one. Oh, it's better. Oh, that's good.
They keep changing the lenses on you.
Oh, it's getting more blurry. Okay, let's go to the first one again. Jesus healed.
Right.
And it's not like with hearing aids, it's the inner ear itself. See, with the eyeball's either too long or too short.
Okay.
So light isn't focused properly on the retina or the back of the eye.
All right.
And the retina, in a sentence, changes light into electricity, which is the language your brain runs on.
Oh, and so the glass that you wear...
It's just a focusing device.
Exactly.
But hearing aids are different. They make sounds louder, but the problem of the hearing is usually in the inner ear, in the retina, in quotes, of the ear itself.
Okay.
And so hearing aids aren't going to be... what do you call it, the same kind, lending the same benefit for the ear that people might expect. People need to have realistic expectations that are based on clear explanations.
Okay.
That's really the long and short of it. That's why I say a good hearing healthcare practitioner walks the walk with the client.
Okay.
Hearing aids have to be explained. How do you use them? How do you insert them? How do you change the battery? How do you change programs on a hearing aid?
And I would also want to know, because you've already told us this, every manufacturer, there's 7 or 8 of them, every manufacturer has a gold, silver, and bronze level product.
Yes.
So what's the difference between the gold and the bronze and the silver?
Very good question.
And what add-ons, what bells and whistles does this have that the other doesn't?
It's basically how they function and handle themselves in noise.
Okay.
In quiet, they'll all work quite the same.
All right.
But as the listening situations become more and more challenging, the more expensive hearing aids will be able to handle, in quotes, the changes in your acoustic environment to a better degree than a less expensive one.
How does that happen? You, the audiologist, how does that work?
Hearing aids don't just make sounds louder. Now remember, hearing aids, I'll start with
that was the old-fashioned kind.
Hearing aids graduated into having what's called compression. Compression means that hearing aids amplify soft sounds by a lot and loud sounds by little or nothing at all.
Okay.
Now, if you walk up to someone with hearing loss, with inner ear caused hearing loss, age or noise, and you yell or talk loudly, that person's going to whoop you upside the head just like anyone else would.
For scaring them half to death.
Because their tolerance for loudness is quite similar to a normal hearing person's tolerance for loudness.
Right.
So, for example, 100 decibels is going to sound terribly loud even to a person with hearing loss.
Okay.
What they can't hear is the soft sounds, let's say below 50. Whereas a normal hearing person can hear from 0 to 10 to 20 to 50 to 80 to 100. The hearing loss person may not be able to hear anything until it's about 50 decibels.
Oh, I see.
And then from 50, 60, 70 to 80 to 90 to 100 they can hear.
Okay.
But 100 is going to be too loud again. Okay, just like it was for the normal hearing person.
Right, okay.
So they have a smaller, what you call dynamic range. The room, the floor to their ceiling, it's like the floor has been raised but the ceiling hasn't. Okay, the floor being really soft sounds and the ceiling being loud. It's like with hearing loss, the floor went up halfway. So hearing aids,
eliminating all those soft sounds.
Yes.
Okay.
And so hearing aids have to amplify soft sounds by a lot. But as the sounds start to get louder, the hearing aids have to automatically back off. And that's called compression. All hearing aids today have that.
Okay.
Okay. That was the biggest transfer or change. Was the second one is
let me stop you on compression though.
Yeah.
Because you're the programmer.
Yep.
You've taken my hearing test. You know exactly where my marks are and exactly what I need to have boosted and where I need help.
Yep.
So when you're programming that hearing aid, you're going to really target those areas that I can't hear.
Exactly. Yep. And we want to make sure that the hearing aid is doing what it's supposed to do.
And you can also target the right ear differently than the left ear.
Exactly. Because you may have different hearing loss in the right from the left ear.
Interesting.
And so and hearing aids also have directional microphones.
Okay.
So they pick up sound in the direction you're facing. No, they don't help you find directions on Google and find your way to Kelowna.
That's okay. Guys never use those maps anyway.
But they will help you. They'll pick up sounds in the direction you're facing more than more than background noise.
Okay.
They also have digital noise reduction. They also have different programs. You might have a different program for listening to music, different program for talking on the phone, a program for listening to TV.
And how do you switch programs if suppose you're just sitting there watching TV and the phone rings? Do you have to make an adjustment before you pick the phone up?
Some hearing aids you do, and some you don't. Some you just push a button on a handheld remote control. But one hearing aid company called Resound out there, as soon as an iPod or iPad is within 1 foot range, the hearing aid automatically is streaming with it.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. So they use Bluetooth streaming as well.
Because I have a friend who's in his early 80s who wears 2 hearing aids, and he carries one of those little remote control devices, like a tiny little remote, so and he's got one for the left ear and one for the right ear.
That's right.
And he literally, when we sit down in a restaurant, and if there's too much background noise, he'll pull his remote out and kind of fine-tune his hearing aids.
Yep. And you can do that.
That's really cool.
That's all part of today's hearing aids.
So does every hearing aid user carry a remote control?
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Okay.
Some people can't handle that.
Too much work?
Yeah, you've got you got people in old age homes. People with with dementia, people with Alzheimer's, people with hearing loss who need hearing aids, but they can't handle all these devices like these remote controls.
Right, because they just forget when they put them down. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes I confiscate those from people.
Okay.
When the next time I see them, it depends on how the person's handling things. You try to open the box one piece at a time.
Okay.
And as the person comes back to see you, you explain another facet of the hearing aids. We like to see people a week after the fitting, and then 2 weeks after the fitting, 3 weeks after the fitting, and then finally 2 months after the fitting, 3 months, so you get them used to wearing the hearing aids a step at a time. It's like walking into the water. You're wading in.
So when people, I would imagine that's a terrific attitude too, because this is brand new stuff. Yes, of course you're welcoming the opportunity to hear better.
Yeah.
But since you haven't heard particularly well for several
You've put
years,
it off for 7 years after you need it.
That you keep using that number?
Because
is that the typical procrastination stage?
That's well-established research, actually.
We find out we need hearing assistance, and we wait 7 years.
Yep.
Aren't we smart?
People put it off after 7 years after they need it.
Now, is part of that, Dr. Ted, because of the clunky old hearing aids that people used to have to wear, that thing on your glasses that looked like with a big hunk of plastic?
Stigma. People look at hearing loss as having to do with age.
Right.
Everybody wears glasses, and they can be as big as God in the front of your face. Look at Elton John.
Yeah.
Glasses are a fashion statement. Hearing aids aren't. But today, you're noticing a lot of people walking around with ear gear anyway.
Right.
I mean, they've got...
Everyone's wearing the buds and the iPods.
So now, actually, hearing aids are being produced to work with ear gear better.
Well, here's a surprise. When I was at Mainland Hearing with Dr. Lee getting my test, we had a lovely conversation afterwards in which he went over my marks and told me I passed. Yeah. But most importantly, at the end of the conversation, I said, well, then I guess, Dr. Lee, I'm probably not a candidate for hearing aids, am I? He said, not at this point, but please come back in a year and we'll reassess. Yeah. And I said, well, do you wear hearing aids? And he says, as a matter of fact, I do. And I'd been sitting there.
And you never knew.
Across the desk from this guy. It's not a very big desk, sitting even closer to me than you are right now. Yep. And all of a sudden, he reaches up in behind his ears and goes, bang, bang. And there's these two hearing. And I was looking at him for an hour.
Yeah, you'd never know.
And I hadn't a clue. Not a clue.
But he's exactly right. Your perceptions are, because those are behind the ear hearing aids. They probably have a little thin little wire coming down from in front of your ear and going into your ear canal.
I didn't even see that.
You'd never notice it. Those are the behind the ear. The all in the ear style are quite cosmetically appealing as well.
Now, you've talked about the gold, silver, and bronze pricing points for these manufacturers. Are some of the price points based on cosmetics or appearance, or are they more feature-oriented?
More feature-oriented.
Okay.
Yeah, because in the gold range, you'll have in the ear and behind the ear. Silver range, you'll have the same style.
Okay.
So the style is a matter of personal preference and manual dexterity and all of those issues.
What kind did Dr. Lee have? What type?
I'm thinking he had behind the ear style.
Okay.
If you're saying he reached behind and pulled these hearing aids out.
Yeah, I guess,
And they had,
but they just sort of magically appeared because it didn't occur to me that this guy, my hearing guy, might be wearing hearing aids.
Those behind the ear style are actually, in my opinion, even more cosmetically appealing and less noticeable.
Okay,
we
need to take a quick break here, but just before we do, what's the most popular style in 2014 for people who wear hearing aids?
Behind the ear.
Behind the ear.
Yep. Because they're not like those big beige fat things that you think about people wearing, those hearing aids that sat behind your ear.
Right.
Those ones that are about an inch and a half long and about a half. Get that out of your head.
And you can see the volume dial.
Get that out of your head. It's gone.
Okay.
That's yesteryear. It's not done anymore.
Oh, and they're pretty slick.
Not unless
you don't notice them.
If you have a severe to profound hearing loss, you might have a larger hearing aid that more approximates what that image is. But 90% of people with hearing loss are hearing aids about as big as a peanut. Yeah. And it sits behind your ear, and the connection is like through a thread wire. Yeah. Very, very thin.
I was amazed at the sort of nanotechnology involved. It's so tiny.
It is.
Our guest in studio talking about hearing is audiologist Dr. Ted Venema from Next Gen Hearing and MainlandHearing.com. That's their website. Next Gen also has a website. Surprise, surprise. Let me just point you in the right direction by spelling Next Gen. It's NEXGEN. Hearing.com. Back with lots more with Dr. Ted after this quick timeout.
It's all about the baby boomer lifestyle. Boomer Life on AM 650.